Clicking.
Hello and
Hello.
welcome. Welcome to another episode.
It's 9 midnight. It is Tuesday. And so my friend Elgin and I are here, and we're going to talk about werewolves tonight. It's going to
Werewolves, yes.
be. I like hairy men. I mean, look, it's my curse. I've got to think that there's a reason for this. I mean, I'm showing off the hamburger, to Elgin as well tonight. My chest is fully picked out.
And I appreciate it.
you
I
know,
thought I thought I should say something.
Rich with ambergris. Anyway,
Right?
why
Ambergris.
not? Why not? I
Right.
just blubbered it up, so it's got that nice sparkly sheen. Looks like the chest is made out of diamonds. How's that song go? Diamonds are a girl's
Which
best
one?
friend. Yeah, I
Oh,
know. I
diamonds,
know.
yeah, gotcha. I
Yeah,
was like,
no.
which one?
That
Lucy,
shine
I'm
bright
thinking
like a diamond.
Lucy in the Sky with diamonds. I don't know how this relates.
Well, now I could think of a relation, but I'm not going to go there. Tonight with werewolves, we're also thinking about like lycanthropy, dogmen, anytime, really kind of focusing on the dog human crossover. Now, we did go over Skinwalker Ranch before, and the whole idea of the Skinwalker or the Wendigo, it does, while deer-ish as well, it does seem to take on dog form. There's that account
There's a
of,
few different ones, yeah.
so a lot of things that have to do with dogs are, they're not just man's best friend. There's something mystical about our best friend. Even my dog, I have an Australian Shepherd, and my wife was telling me that, certain dogs like his breed who will just stop and get like nervous and stare into a corner like they see something. There are places where they call them ghost eye dogs because, perhaps they see through the veil, and anyone who's had a dog just barking at the corners got to be like, God damn it, I've lived here for a week. What is it? You know
Right.
what I mean?
What's
Please be a
going
rat in the
on?
wall. So, but with werewolves, it's something that comes up in all media these days. We do, there's vampires, and they've
Well, I mean,
tried
it's been going on since the 5th century, apparently. When I did the research, I'm like, holy crap, this goes back really far.
for that modern kind of like werewolf, like that term werewolf, because that's got the Anglo-Saxon, right? What was it? I was thinking about getting a soundbite from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. It was like, turn to page 294. Anyway, it was the wizardly one with the werewolves, and but me again, I always go back to Enki. You know what I mean? Even before that 5th century stuff, like there were people, stories of the people who lived off in the woods. Enkidu. I'm sorry. Enkidu is the best friend of Gilgamesh from the Epic of Gilgamesh, or at least it became ally. I mean, he was the hairy man who lived in the woods. Some places as I was doing my research, they want to refer to him as a werewolf man. And I don't like that personally because it really does seem like it related more to maybe like a Bigfoot, maybe like a wild, big, hairy man of the woods, like they are almost a species, right? If anyone is familiar with the Epic of Gilgamesh, it's it's pretty racy tablet the way they tame the man. But anyway,
Yeah.
so you know, but ultimately he is still a man who just had such wild instincts. Also, for anyone listening. I don't know why, but there's some correlation between being an extremely hairy man and being known as a sex god. Ladies, gentlemen, make a note. Anyway, so
Write it down.
write it down.
Learn yourself something. That's what I always say.
I like it. It's now they try to say he is, and I looked back to Lycaon. Lycaon, let me see. I have it right here. Where is it? There we go. So Lycaon is the Greek who, it seems like this is pre-Diluvian. it seems like before a great flood. So the story, most cultures have a flood story, right? Now, whether or not you want to take that as proof of a global flood or as proof by using Google Maps that humans just always build too close to the water and it rises, whatever, who knows? But one of the oldest Greek mythology about not just the deluge, the flood, but werewolves. So King Lycaon or Lycaon, he was the king of Arcadia as well, which is like a mythical, most beautiful of Greece type thing. And he tried to trick Zeus into eating Lycaon's own son. Lycaon slaughtered his own son to feed to the Lord Thunder Zeus and
God of Thunder.
God of Thunder,
Well, God of
right?
Lightning, technically.
God of
God
lightning
of
and
Lightning, yeah.
God of lightning, right? And so, he was testing Zeus's omniscience. Is he going to know? Is he going to know that I cut my own kid up and put him in the
Right?
pie?
Did
You
he see
know,
it?
it's very Arya Stark, like, just got back from Pentos. What's up? Where in your face? But like, this one's weird because, like, Zeus lets him cook up his kid. Zeus sits down at the table, and then the plate comes, and he goes, "It's like, man, I can't believe you really put the plate in front of me like I wouldn't know. All right, you're a
Stupid.
wolf. You're a wolf now, and your whole family's dead." It's kind of like a Job thing too, except rather than in the Bible where God and the devil shake hands on whether or not Job's a good friend to God. It's almost like Lycaon had this sick need to know. It was like a bet with himself, like his sick fascination. It's like you're driving on the
Yeah,
freeway,
yeah.
and if I just jerk the wheel left, I'm gonna smash into the median. And I mean, this is the story of a guy who just like literally, like apparently, you hang out with the people living on Olympus, and it's like they're not gonna know I killed my kid and put him in the burgers. They found out, and he is one of the beginnings of that, as far as actually
Wolf into
being
man kind of a thing.
wolf. Yeah, the wolf
Wolf or
connection.
man into wolf, I should
Man
say.
into wolf.
Yeah,
And
because
because the
it's
name
different
Lycaon,
too.
Lycaon. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I was reading about some of this story when you were telling me about it earlier. Like it's a different sect of werewolf, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
I would say anthology. It's more or less like there's different types of werewolves, which I'm sure we'll get into tonight. I have a few different ones, but his story is actually pretty interesting. Also, his story is only related to Gilgamesh. Like no one, there's no other really Enkidu. I mean,
Yeah, no, Enkidu.
there's
I
really
realize you meant.
only stories wrapped around him. That's how like close they were. It's pretty interesting.
It seems like Enkidu was the story makes it seem like, okay, the story arises, and here now we're introduced to Gilgamesh, and as Gilgamesh's story progresses, he kind of realizes that that wild man in the woods that everyone's been knowing about. Basically, it's like, all right, look, we all know Bigfoot lives out there, is how I always saw it. Again, we're talking about it in the werewolf episode because a lot of people seem to be referring to him as a werewolf, but
Not exactly.
not exactly. There's
Yeah,
something
not exactly.
there's something more like a Tom Bombadil, or like the guy from The Hobbit who was like, yeah, I have a deep connection to the nature of the land. I live as a wild man, and I think like an animal sometimes. Sorry that you snuck up on me, and I don't clip my nails. I scratched your neck. It happens. But it, he also passes. He also is introduced in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Also, the same story. He dies, and so he could be referenced in the future as, but it's not like there's other stories to tell of the character who died in the one story we have of them. At the same time, the Epic of Gilgamesh is the oldest story we can find as humans.
Right.
So
Oldest literary story. Yeah.
I mean, what if all we found was like, issue 27,
I was
you
just thinking
know?
chapter 58, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like could have been just a bunch of misinformation, but
I
yeah,
mean,
or
we've
not
got
misinformation, but lost information that we don't have.
I mean, this is something that, get on me. Tell me in the comments if you don't agree with me. When it comes to any time people believe stuff about the ancient, I always think bad translation of bad translation, and I'm not mad about it. I think
The
that there's
telephone game, yeah.
it's telephone. It happens. I think that I don't know. Like, I'm not a linguist, but I know that people say that Latin, oh, it's a dead language. No one knows how to speak it. And my mind says, well, we know that Latin is a mother language to what? Like Romanian, German, Spanish, and French and Italian. And so if you had a Roman Empire that all quote unquote spoke Latin, but they spread out that far, I mean, in America,
How easy is it to
how
slang
easy to have slang?
to slang out a language into non-existence? You know what I mean?
Bro, I don't know if hella started in Vegas or California, but people say hella. You know what I mean?
People say lit now.
People
Lit is
say
not,
lit.
you know what I mean? Lit does
Yeah,
not mean what it
lit.
meant 25 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Now you
mean,
got to
the
clarify how you're
bomb.
using it. The bomb, exactly.
Okay, I saw a
Stuff like
meme.
that.
Check this out. This guy got arrested. This guy got arrested because it seems like he was just chatting with his friend. Maybe, I don't remember where, maybe an airport though. And it's just, he used the wrong terminology. Guys, I'm going to go in the bathroom and I'm going to drop a bomb. And boom,
Oh
arrested.
shit! Bango! Wrong
and
words, buddy.
and then like literally like the count is like, man tries to explain to police that dropping a bomb in the bathroom is not what they think he's talking about. And I
Right.
just held my head because
Hands in face.
you
That's
know
that's what that is.
i
Hands in
mean
face.
i
We
mean
wasted how much taxpayer money on that?
absolutely. I mean, there's a picture and it's being talked about. It's in the public zeitgeist. We're thinking about it. We
I
know.
mean, that's a 16-minute conversation as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Okay, let's arrest him, check him. Oh, you meant this? Well, we checked him, so you don't have a bomb. So see ya.
Yeah.
Move on. You know what I mean? Why make it a thing? Why draw it all out? Like our mistake, we're just checking to make sure you weren't one of those crazy people.
Now
And he
imagine
should
if
and he should
oh
be just as thankful. You know what I mean? Like, okay, thanks. I
yeah.
appreciate that. Sorry, I should have been a little bit more thoughtful when I spoke like that. You know what I mean?
I was thinking, how would you screen for werewolves? You know what I mean? I mean, they can walk around in the daytime, you
Some,
know.
not all, but some, yeah.
Whoa, 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 whoa. It sounds like
Yeah,
you've done some other research.
I told you,
So,
I went
werewolves
into
that
it.
are not allowed in the sunlight, do tell, please.
So there's a breed that was basically made a version of not so much vampire, but bloodlusting. They're called bloodhound vampires. They're
Okay.
in Eastern Europe mostly. They're of the Alpha series, which the Alpha series is like the most rarest of rare. I see your face right out. I love it.
Oh, sorry. No,
No, it's the rarest of rare
okay.
werewolves, just because they're bigger, they're smarter, and they retain all of
Really?
their mental facilities, so they're able to think like humans and everything like that.
And when they walk in a room, they command the room. The women, they stare
Alpha.
at them. The females and the males that are betas, they just walk away when the alpha werewolf shows up because this guy smells like Dolce and Gabbana and Jean-Paul Gaultier LaMail. You know it.
Together.
Together. Anyway, no leather, guys. I'm
But
joking. I got leather. Anyway, Gesundheit.
but I'll say it. Yeah, so like they because they're bloodless animals, they were like derivatives of vampires, sort of speak, and
Interesting.
they only change those particular ones only change during nighttime, and they are uncontrollable to change on full moons, and they drink blood instead of just being violent. You know what I mean? Whereas
So,
most werewolves, like it kind of all the ones that I researched anyway, I'm sure there's more out there. And if there is, please comment, like, jump in the conversation, let me know, correct me. I love that.
yeah.
Um, all of them that I did all the research on, they basically like werewolves just eat people or they're just violent. And they don't
Yeah.
eat people for the sake of like food. they eat them for the sake of like fun for hunting or building the pack bigger.
Yeah. Um, it, I think maybe why not? I'll take this moment and here's what I think is kind of the classic in 2022. This is what we've kind of been slowly fed through movies, and one of my all-time favorite movies is An American Werewolf in London, right? It is phenomenal. I mean, that transformation scene, it looks like becoming a werewolf is the most hellish torture of bones breaking, splitting, stretching, putting back together, and then you feel it. But that movie is so well done. It seems like, for whatever reason, it's a very British thing. There's a very and even in America,
Being a werewolf is British.
the most modern incarnation of the way, at least in America, I think we think of like the quote unquote the werewolf. I think that there is, and especially because like werewolf, man wolf, it's Anglo-Saxon. I think that like the particular werewolf now, lycanthropy, that is separate. Again, that is more Greek, and then there's the biblical king who was turned into the grazer. I won't lie. I don't know. I read every verse in the Bible that I could find. And you had
It's a
sent them
dead
to me
end.
too. It's such a
Yeah,
dead end
it's a
because
dead end. I know.
the only
When you said it to me, I was so excited.
I was stoked.
Literally,
I thought this might whatever,
I spent all that night like 5 hours of reading the Bible, going back, reading like 5 different versions of the Bible, and none of them were like definitive where it was like he was a werewolf. They're all just like he acted as if an animal. Most of them are like he grazed of the grass,
He
and like
grazed.
I was like, well,
Yeah.
that's not very werewolfy already. Like, I guess you can spin that around. There's even a couple videos with that. I watched one video with a furry guy. Shout out to him. He actually got back to me and messaged me. Really cool
Hey,
guy.
thanks for the
Yeah,
shout.
he was really really nice. I talked with him about it. He's actually a furry guy who believes that he was a werewolf at one point in time in his
He
life.
believes that in this life he was a werewolf, or is this a
No,
past life?
in a past life he was a werewolf.
I can't
And
believe
now
we're 3 weeks away from our past life, and you're just now telling me. I'm kidding. I'm
exactly.
kidding.
And
Right?
now he embodies a furry, and he's a wolf in his
Okay.
furry suit, and he talks all about he's a spiritual person, very Christian based, and he talked all about that in the Bible, and that's why he believed in it, and that's why he believed
Okay.
it came about. And I was kind of like, wow, that's really interesting. I messaged him and was like, man, that's pretty wild. I'm not very a spiritual person, but I am a spiritual person, and I like the idea of it. And I'm like, if you could explain to me a little more in depth. I listened to your video. It's only 8 minutes long. I told
Yeah.
him I wish it was longer. I wish you had more. And he was like, yeah, man, I can send you the whole thing. Just people didn't like it, and it went too wordy. I was like, absolutely, send it to me whenever you can. And he was like, yeah, I will. He's like, thanks for liking it and everything. I'm like, yeah, man, no worries. And we kind of just were chit chatting over Skype, and I was just talking with him about what we do at our project here, and basically he was talking to me about a lot of different types of werewolves. He actually got me started into all the Bible stuff, and it is a dead end because it never precisely says like a violent wolf-like creature. It just says he turned into an animalistic. All of them say an animalistic, a murderous.
It's
You know what I mean?
basically it's an allegory. Like it's a true analogy in there where they're not even trying to hide the fact. They're not trying to. You can't really take a hard stance to say no. This is werewolf. One, they never say werewolf anywhere. The only person who does become spiritually forced to act like an animal acts like a bovine, like a cow. They
Yeah,
graze.
Cal.
And
Yeah.
honestly, apparently it's like it's only what a a singular season that it even went on. So
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't his lifetime. It was just a single season. Yeah.
and so like then everything else that I saw where it said, "Oh, the Bible talks about werewolves," I would click it and it would say something like, if you're a bad person, then you're no better than a ravenous beast. And I'm like, okay, that's just
I
saying don't be a
guess.
piece
Yeah.
of shit.
Oh
That
yeah,
just
don't
said
hurt
don't be a
people.
piece
Yeah,
of shit. Don't be mean to people and act like you're out for yourself, because that's what animals who don't think about other
use common sense
tomorrow.
instead
Use
of
common
instinct.
sense.
Instead of instinct, right?
You
Like,
know,
come
I
on
mean,
now.
personally, again, I think George Costanza put it best when he said, "We're living in a
Live in
society."
society. Yeah.
That
The
got me. Sorry, that made me laugh too hard.
right.
That
I don't mean to
was
keep
fun.
switching back and forth, but
Yeah,
I also was reading into the Enkidu or Enkidu, however you
Enkidu.
pronounce that one.
Yeah. Enkidu. I mean, honestly, if there's someone who's fluent in ancient Sumerian who could give us a correction, please do. But Enkidu, I think that it's
Yeah, I was
overcorrected.
right. I was so shocked at how like in the Sumerian language, like his name is almost synonymous with Gilgamesh's story, and like that
Yeah,
in that language, like they're almost tied together in their language.
yeah.
I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, what else? I was trying to figure out like what other type of characters in our language nowadays are like that besides like I guess man's best friend kind of a thing. Like you know what I
I'm
mean? Like
not
there's
sure.
nothing that are tied together so much where it's like you if you're talking about Gilgamesh, you're also talking about his ward or slave or however you want to put it.
It
You know
depends.
what
You
I
know,
mean?
some people have gone so far as to claim they were lovers, right? Which I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot of different
look,
roles that they say.
ancient Macedonian area, the Fertile Crescent. Look, is it warm? That was it. That's it. I mean,
Mesopotamia, all that, yeah.
nobody
Uh,
thought more than that. You know what I mean? What? I'm out battling every other tribe for like 10 fucking years. I don't even know what a real woman looks like. And, you know, Bob is just there for me. Oh, looks like we got Mark Hanks hopping in to say
hey,
something.
Nacogdoches, what's going on,
Nacogdoches.
man?
Interesting. How you doing, sir? Any werewolves you ever saw? Mr. Mark Hanks out there? Nacogdoches. There's a road out here called Nacogdoches. Speaking of
Is it
roads,
really? That's
yeah, I
hilarious.
keep meaning to take a picture
Steal
of
that
it, but
sign, yeah.
I would never go so far as to deface public property by taking a sign. But yeah, I think that the Beast of Bray Road, right? There is in
Yeah.
America, and again, this is something that seems to
Michigan, I
be in
think it
the
was.
New Englandy area, right? This is up in
I
like
thought it was Michigan.
Massachusetts, or
Oh, you might be. Yeah, that one's Massachusetts. There is one in Michigan too.
there is. Okay, so I mean, like, I think
There's a video actually.
the Beast of Bray Road, one of them is kind of related to the Bridgewater Triangle, I think, up in that Massachusetts foresty area
Yeah,
where they
yeah.
have weirdo stuff happening.
A
You know what I
lot
mean?
of stuff.
A
Yeah.
lot of stuff happening up in there. I mean, honestly, there's something weird about a lot of places in America. You know, I mean, it's just creepy, cave systems and whatnot. But man, where was I
Did
going
you
with
watch?
that one?
Did you? You're talking about the Gray Road one, but did you
Yeah, the
watch
Bray
any of
Road.
those videos? Like any videos of the ones that they assume they caught on videos, werewolves and stuff like that? Like
I
80% of them are from Eastern Europe or from
yeah,
like places that have like really weird populations of animals versus humans.
yes.
Even though they don't talk about that in the videos, I'm like, well, your cities are in the middle of jungles. They have one like, and they have 3 of them in Brazil where it's like, yeah, that's in the middle of a jungle. It could be any old thing. You know what I mean? Like, who knows what that thing is? A
You
couple
know,
of them were completely fake that looked just cheeseball.
I've never seen a video that seemed to show anything that looked real. I mean, the most I've maybe seen is like a quick flash image, which ultimately my brain has to say, how did you get that person at the edge of the tree line? I'm pretty sure your homie's in a suit and you're driving by. And I'm just glad they're not doing a funny fucking Patterson walk to try to sell it. You know what I mean?
There's
I
only
mean,
one that actually got me where I was like, man, I don't know what kind of animal that was just by the
share it with
movements.
me.
I will. I'll
Yeah.
send it to you. It's pretty weird. It was at the end of one of the videos. There's like a video on YouTube that's like nine videos of werewolves caught on camera, and it's the only Asian video of a werewolf because all of them are either American, Eastern European again, or Russian. There's a lot of Russian werewolves. I'm like, good God, stay out of the Russian forests. They are deadly.
Yeah,
Like there's like 150,000 stories of Russian werewolves. Like, holy crap, man.
the Russians seem to really like werewolves. You know, they even had a serial killer who ended up going by the werewolf of blah blah blah.
Oh no, you're thinking of Stump, by the way.
Pardon me,
Peter Stump. I did the research on him too.
Peter Stump.
Yeah, Peter Stump.
Wow. Well, that I think that he's not the only Russian person who tried to become the werewolf, right?
No, he was he was German, not Russian. He was in the 16th century, I guess.
No, I'm talking
1589,
I'm talking about a guy who was a police officer, like over in Russia, like up
Oh,
until like
I'm sorry, no.
2012. Yeah.
No, I thought you were talking about actually like they killed this guy, Peter Stump. If anybody wants to look it up,
yes, this is what I wanna
amazing
hear.
article. They killed this guy because of his exact his exact crimes. Let me pull it up.
I really like this. I like when these 400 or 500-year-old crime reports let us know their exact infractions against
Exactly.
society.
So he's a German farmer and alleged serial killer accused of werewolfery, witchcraft, and cannibalistic animalistic eating. Absolutely crazy. So they killed this guy because basically he was eating humans, killing humans, and acting like a wild animal doing so, which was pretty interesting for the time of its day. But the way that they killed him was even more barbaric or pretty wild. They tied him to a wagon wheel, nailed him down with silver nails, obviously, because, he's a werewolf.
Why not?
You know what I mean? Tied him up and then beheaded him after drowning him. Like, they wanted to make sure. Oh, and by the way, I forgot, they broke every bone in his body before they cut his head off.
That's like some
just
Rasputin
to
shit.
make sure. Yeah, exactly what I thought. I was like, man, is he Rasputin's cousin or something? Like, they hated
what's his
this
last
dude.
name? Yeah,
They hated Stump, but they hated this guy. And he died in October 1589, October 31st.
October. Oh, now we know where it all started, right?
Exactly. I was like, that's pretty wild. Like, he killed a bunch of people and he admitted to eating them, his neighbors, his friends, a couple of his friends, he killed and ate them. He even like butchered a bunch of people just for the sake of doing it. I mean, he's a serial killer and he was nuts of the time. And the guy lived out in the woods by himself, essentially.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, the story spins up that he's superhuman strong. He was pretty huge. Apparently, it's a pretty interesting story when you read of it. It's actually one of the oldest like decapitation executions that they have like on record.
Really?
So, yeah, it's from 1589, for God's sake. Like, that's forever ago.
That's a while.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's not like, like
man.
In the Victorian times when they were doing it, that's well before that. You know what I mean? So it was pretty interesting how the neighbors and witnesses, and that's the other part. Like, there was witnesses to his crimes. It wasn't like he like hid it. He did it so much to the point where they're like, all right, we got to get this guy and kill him off because he's really like ruining our area. They called him, where was it here? It was Bedburg. I think it was the Werewolf of Bedburg. Is what the Werewolf of Bedburg, or however you pronounce that.
Was Richard Speck, was he called a werewolf at all? Because he drank blood. Da 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 da. Prolonging throats, combination. Da 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 da. Hiding behind bed. I don't know, but for some reason, I just kept thinking about Richard Speck. This just reminded me of like the Richard Speck case. It's like, the killer. What was he? What was he known as? Other names?
Birdman. It says
he's the Birdman. No, he's not the Birdman of Alcatraz or anything. What is he? He just killed a bunch of nurses. He was
Richard Speck nickname.
Yeah,
life in prison while incarcerated at Stateville prison. Senator Speck was given the nickname Birdman after after the film Birdman of Alcatraz because he kept a pair of sparrows that he flew into his cell.
Oh man, I say I don't know too much about him, but just the insanity of like the driven to do such horrible things to people. Uh, we know that as you know mental health disorder.
Well, up
Like
until the 1920s, that was called clinical. I can't say the word.
clinical lycanthropy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And literally, it just meant you wanted to do violence against another human in some animalistic way, and there was no cure for it because obviously it's just a mental health problem. But not I shouldn't be laughing, but I'm saying like
Well,
I'm
I
laughing.
mean, it
I'm
just sounds
laughing at the
insane.
at the diagnosis, like, oh, she's got the vapors. That's kind of how it feels.
She's got
Like
the
Jesus
vapors.
Christ,
Yeah.
you can't just put people's mental health in such a small window. Like
Yeah.
that's messed up.
Yeah. Uh, I'm sorry. I'm blown away by that. Certain things I feel like people should look over. Um, like, how do you not just know that people are sick?
Well, I mean, I guess back in those days, there wasn't that much education on that sort of thing because obviously there wasn't that many people and the world was a lot bigger back then because they didn't have internet and a lot, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that didn't spread as fast. So I guess if you had a serial killer that was all hairy and wild and or you had
Whoa,
a
whoa,
person that
whoa,
was just
whoa!
a person that was
Up until now,
violent.
up
Let
until
me
now,
clarify that.
we never had to say that the man was hairy. Now, so far in our episode,
I
I'd
just
like to make a
assumed.
point. Let me just open up my shirt a little bit. We've been making quite a clear point that the hairy people are actually innocent, if not heroic.
It's just a form of
Whereas
trichosis, you know.
hypertrichosis is something that is one of the things that got me thinking about it when I was a kid. They showed us the quote unquote the Wolf Boys, the brothers,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
acrobats who were in
Spanish
the
brothers, yeah.
circus, the Mexican or Spanish, right?
Yeah,
And
the Spanish dog brothers or something like that.
yeah, and it was actually, if I remember correctly, it was actually a genetic trait that was extremely rare in the males of their
It is,
family.
yeah.
It was the females who, and they did not get head to toe covered, but they most certainly would have interesting eyebrows or a forehead that had a coat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, they have like there's different levels of it too, and I looked that up. There's some that like you just have baby hair all over you, and it's super fine and thin, and you can't really see it, but you're completely covered like head to toe. And then there's a different level where it's just really light hair
Yeah.
everywhere, and then there's like the highest level of hypertrichosis, which is like black, coarse, like pubic hair. They call it like the
Really?
yeah, the thicker like what do you call it, follicle hair, and it's a lot stronger, and like even if you shave it, like it's coming back way worse. It's a pretty interesting disease actually.
Huh.
Yeah,
Well.
there's no cure for it, and there's no real rationalization, or they don't know why it happens. It's pretty interesting.
Oh man, you seem to go down a slightly different road than me. I have a lot of stuff pulled up about. I had the Greek, the beginning of Lycaon or Lycaon. However, again, I can't pronounce ancient Greek. But then there's also the origin of Rome. Right? Do you know about the origin of Rome, where there was the twin boys, Romulus and Remus? They were the twin sons of Ares, I believe, right? And they were suckled by a she-wolf. So instead of being nursed by, a human, they were nursed, and so they both they have not Adam, Eve. What are their first two kids' names? The ones that
Cain
killed
and Abel.
they have a Cain and Abel thing because Romulus killed Remus, therefore starting Rome. They have each. They say Remus sometimes had been an undead spirit who came back as a werewolf. Was one like small, not big picked up myth, but something about Rome itself, they really, I mean, some of the art of babies, nursing on a wolf, it was a deep part of them. I mean, some people seem to be actually questioning whether or not this was something they took as fact or not. The story of two Mowglis, and one got the other.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
I
I mean,
mean,
it is kind of a thing where I think it's a depiction of two super strong individuals. Like they're so strong that they suckle at this predator. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing.
it's like
And
a
that's how they.
Herculean feat.
Yeah. Like
Mm-hmm.
wow. Like look at our children
Yeah,
are this strong of a type of people. I guess you want to say a race of people. I don't want to say race because it's not really a race, but um, I think it
interesting.
is.
You go there though,
It's a
but
fear inspiring thing though, you know what I mean? Like if
yeah,
you think about it back then, not now, not so much nowadays, kind of weird, but back then it's like, whoa, like your kids can suckle at a wolf and like the wolf doesn't want to kill them and the wolf thinks of them as a predator, as alpha like they are. Like that's an interesting thing to think or to put out there for your people. Like look how strong our children are, you know what I mean? It's the same thing as like playing with lions, you know what I mean? Back in the days, like they used to keep lions as pets and like
yeah.
you couldn't do that unless you were pretty strong or had control. And now it's like a total different thing. You know what I mean? It's interesting.
It's not lycanthropy or werewolf related at all, but Hercules, right? He had two snakes crawl into his bassinet as a baby, and as a baby he just killed them snakes. Not my house. Mm-mm.
Right? I don't like snakes.
I don't like snakes.
Nope.
Not my thing. So I mean, the children interacting with nature, especially whether they dominate nature. Hercules dominated two serpents. I mean, you know, you can dominate the animal. You can, harmonize and, become like child to it. But there's something about the human animal connection that elevates these mythological people to more than
Right.
just human, because
Yeah,
even
to superhuman, exactly.
whenever they were not, whether or not they had like we think is probably this person's son, but they also say she was a wood dryad, and so it's like, okay, fine,
I
but
look at it too, like, they talk about like in battles and stuff, like you drink or eat the heart of your enemies, you become their strength of the
yeah,
enemy. Like if you're suckling at a wolf, you're a predator, you're as fast and cunning as a wolf and all that sort of stuff. Like that was stuff that they believed back then, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Which like you're saying, like becoming part of the land or being super close to the animal, like what's closer than, you know, feeding just like the animal would feed,
just
you know
as
what I
they
mean?
would
Or
feed, yeah.
eating what they eat, or acting as if they would. Like that's becoming one or getting as close as you can to them.
I mean, sorry, this is the simplest thing with my own dog. Like, I pour water into my own big old glass, I take a sip, and then I pour the water so that he knows that, like, we drink the same thing. And it's like little weird things like that, because I didn't have him since he
That's
was a
funny.
puppy, so I just try to do any little thing to make sure he knows, like, I'm not trying to, like, you and me, man, it's us, you know what I mean? So, I
That's
feel like
funny
it
because like
works.
my dog, he will not eat until after I eat, which is a total pack animal thing. Like
Yeah.
I always thought, like, why the heck
He
doesn't he eat?
defers.
Yeah, he's like waiting, he's waiting, he sees me
Hmm.
eating, and then he's like, all right, I'm gonna sneak over and eat my food. But that's just how dogs are, pack
Yeah.
animals, you know what I mean?
They
Speaking of dogs, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Like the African dogs, they're all named after the Lycan King that you were talking about,
like, oh yeah,
or
yeah.
Lyacin, or however you pronounce that. They're
Lycaon, yeah, I had that
yeah,
pop up as well.
like
Hmm.
their name is the Latin name of his name. Like it's saying that they were likened to him, is literally how the etymology of it is. It's pretty cool because those dogs are pretty vicious, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it would depend, because don't we also hear them just? I can't remember what my wife let me know, because she's from West Africa. I can't remember what they called them, but I mean, like the thing that's amazing about Africa is all all mythologies, they seem to, whether they will start and spring in Africa and then travel with the people and change as they go across, but then they'll come someone goes right back to Africa, and then now that's there too. Now that's in Africa too.
Birthplace of civilization, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, it's amazing that like
Or
things come
cradle of
full
civilization.
circle. I mean, I know I've mentioned the wrong Shong, which is not a lycanthrope of any kind, but like the things that like that's like a duende almost, or I even thought of it as like what, a goblin or a red cap, but dressed nice. I don't even know. I mean, phenomenal. I love when the mythology and the lore, they mix, or they they're disconnected by 100 years of people telling the story
Right? And
different,
cross back over.
and then when they cross back over, people are like, you know what, I bet we could
Oh,
put
that fit. Yeah.
I think we could put this together and actually find a root story here, um and then that's two. So I'm not going to wait for a third nice segue. We had one good segue talking about dogs and like people of dogs, and then this last one. But in the pardon me, in medieval times, there are and me, I kind of look at it as, well, that's just 12th century racism for you. I mean, that's what I think. I mean, I
It's a
think
different time.
it's a different time. It was fine to just say the people who live over there are dog-faced people with no morals or souls, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, to me, it doesn't
Jesus.
sound like they believed that that island over there is inhabited truly by, I guess, werewolves, right? Like werewolves who just go about their normal day. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I still have my dog face on, but what I'd really like to talk to you about is this timeshare. Have you seen a living room so
Right.
beautiful? But
Exactly.
but they seem to have just a normal life, and there'll be stories of when our people will go up there, and I mean, it's risky, but hey, they got good stuff, so we trade
Yeah, good food over
sometimes.
there, right?
But
Exactly.
it's like, it just sounds like old racism to me. Like, okay, so you think that your people are pretty and they're ugly, so you say them dog faces. And that's what
Right.
all I mean, that's all it
But I
sounds
mean,
like to me, because
if you think about it, it's the same thing as like there is that meme going around right now with that like Victorian looking guy, and they're like, what would you do if you saw this character getting off a boat? First of all, this is the first time you ever seeing that big of a boat. You're used to seeing canoes. You know what I mean? And it's like a guy in like a white powder face with the curly wig. You know what I mean? It's like,
that
yeah,
stuff is still
that would be
scary.
frightening. Like you would be frightened. You would call that some weird name too. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine being like not just not just like that first level awareness of like, oh no, that person is dressed really weird and they're dressed like maybe a ghost. But what about that second layer of scared when you realize, are you, wait, are you telling me that those are just people who cover themselves in powder and wigs because those people are infested with buggies? Those are
Also, I think
those are
what
flea-ridden human beings who have to soak themselves in talc. Like, I'm
well,
scared for a whole new reason.
you would also be shocked that they don't speak the same language you do, and their language sounds harsh as heck and super simplistic when you have the most beautiful language ever, in your opinion. You know what I mean? Like
Eh, eh, eh,
that would be just as frightening that this person's all ugly looking to you, and then they don't even speak your language. Oh man, 10 times wild. You know what I mean? They're definitely
and
a monster or a creature.
and this guy smells like smallpox, guys. Like, I don't know. You know what I
He
mean?
reeks of small parts.
I don't like coming to the hospital. I'm just saying, like, I'm glad that we came, but ultimately, I'm glad that we left more, you know?
Right.
I mean, man, yeah, if you can, things are different. I mean, when you see something for the first time, yeah, if I grew up in a world, I guess, where I had never seen people who were of different races, I guess it would probably be a
Be
shock.
frightening. Who knows what you
But
would call them?
but
You know what I mean?
but I
I,
mean,
I would hope you'd be nice enough not to be like, hey, these dog faced dog people. You know
right?
what I
And
mean?
but
Like,
see, and that's where my mind
Jesus.
goes. That's where my mind goes. I think like that. It's like, okay,
Unless again they were hairy like dogs, they had the disease. I
and,
mean,
and what if there were a tribe of
what if there
people
was
who
just
were
a
just
bunch of them? Yeah,
hairy?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That would
or
make sense, You'd
uh,
you'd have to the only thing you could relate it to would be a dog, you know what I mean, or a bear, I guess.
they did also bring up in that movie, which again, I love Antonio Banderas, but he's a Spaniard, not exactly an Iraqi or a Persian guy. But when he played, in the 13th Warrior, I mean, that whole movie is about like, okay, well, we went over, I'm from, this great clean place and I'm going to Europe where they're all nasty and they drink each other's snot water and they're afraid of just north where there's the dog face people. And it turned out that the dog face people were a tribe of people who would wear the skins of the animals and then go into battle fierce as animals, and it was the idea of instilling, it was psychological warfare. That's the other thing that I don't think people think about as much. Like, I would love there to be werewolves. I'm sorry, like, the world be damned, I want to get bit. I'll howl at the moon, I'll cry, I need to find someone who loves me because only someone who loves me can kill me with a silver bullet. Silver by itself doesn't work. I'll do it all for hundreds of thousands of years.
Or vampire kill you either way.
A vampire can kill you if you're a werewolf?
Yep.
But vice versa, right?
And vice versa, yeah.
There
they're the
you
only ones that could kill them.
Run from my teeth, man. I got a bigger mouth than you. I'm a dog face. See, I want the dog face
and
too.
Stronger.
I like it, I would be all good. I could do that. But that never is what it is. It's always like, they're dog face people and and I hate the way they do their clothes. Their tapestries are inferior. All right? I like to travel west because I like the way the Slavs do it better, because the dog-faced people, they embellish it with too much paisley. I hate paisley. Anyway.
Right. I look at it kind of like with how they were, that movie, The Wolfman. Did you see that one? With
I've
Benicio
seen many.
del Toro?
Yes, I saw that one. I did see that
one. I like how they did that one too, where it wasn't like this crazy ravenous person. Like, it was just a thing that was passed down. And like, if you got bit by it, you became it. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't so much a like this violent creature that's just insane and crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I love how they did it where it was like, oh, he does go crazy when he becomes a werewolf because he's an animal. You know what I mean? He becomes like a wolf man. You know what I mean?
He's being compelled to be animalistic,
to hunt and animalistic. Yeah, like, I enjoyed how they did that. It was an interesting way of portraying the werewolves. You know what I mean?
And to me, I still think that personally, also
that transformation is I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries.
That transformation is right up there with Werewolf in London for me.
And
with the bone breaking and skin tearing and all that. It's awesome.
I was going back to Werewolf in London again because personally, that's just the be all end all of like that scene where he's first having that full transformation. You're watching it with and then the camera, like, they do something that they don't often do. He looked right into the camera. He looked into
the fourth wall.
He broke the fourth wall. Yeah. He looked into every member of the audience.
Hurt you guys.
And he looked like, okay, can it just stop already now though? And then he fucking kept going. And it was, oh man, there was something. And then once he was a wolf, there was, dude was gone. There was an animal there, and you saw like the last, I'm trying to hang on, and boom, he's just, yeah. And the biggest animal, if there was a wolf that big, he'd give no shits about running around London until he gets put down. Like, I'm bigger than all of you.
Nothing's gonna
take a lot of you to get me.
Well, you're an apex predator at that point. You know what I mean?
I think that there's the idea of the psychology that goes into it too. That idea of the apex predator, I think that's something that humans get hung up on a little bit. I mean, what was sometimes one way or the other. You know what I mean? Like humans who want to demand mastery over the natural world instead of finding some way to like live alongside it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, there's always got to be a top for some reason. That's the human's way. There's always has to be a leader. You know what I mean? Someone that's
it's like a domineering
that's in control. Yeah, someone that's in control. Because otherwise, we'd all run rampant and wild. Apparently,
is what we're told, right? Yeah, but I mean, I'm pretty sure the older I get, the more I believe if you leave everyone to their own devices, you're not going to see cars on the roads anymore. Everyone just wants to stay home and stay the hell away from everyone else. Like, as much as we're social, man,
I feel like we're pretty social, but it's like the ones that don't want to be social aren't, and the ones that are very social. So it's like that's the same way that the animal world works to some degree. You know what I mean? So why would it not be any different for us? We are essentially animals.
I mean, I think that we're pretty much exactly animals, but I also wonder what would take for the rest of the village to decide to claim you as a werewolf. Like, besides just being
Apparently, a bit of werewolvery.
apparently werewolvery, right? Yeah, werewolvery, and Harry means
Killing your neighbors
patience,
and shredding people up. Apparently,
and,
yeah, that
and I
kind
get
of
it,
kind of
but
sounds very werewolverish.
but it also, but I don't know. I guess I'm thinking about, you know, modern day true crime serial killers, and then and then what about the Summer of Sam, when the Son of Sam was in New York, and everyone was people were beating up, just people were just sending other people to the hospital because they're like, that's Sam there, and they
It
would
was
go
him.
beat him
Yeah,
up.
yeah. I found him. Yeah.
And I mean that groupthink, when groupthink gets involved, you know what I mean? It's like
What's that called? With Frankenstein, the mob
the
mentality.
mob mentality. Yeah, you know,
Burn him.
burn him. He's like,
I think that comes back to right, fire
no.
bad. I think it
Yeah,
comes back to like we're talking about like wolves and animals and stuff like that, like pack mentality. You know what I mean? Like when the dogs start running, if you're ever in a dog park, all the dogs start running.
yeah.
There's no reason, they're just running in a circle because like, oh shoot, they saw one dog running
They
and
saw there must be something going
must be
on.
something. We better follow that dog, and
It
everyone's following everyone.
it's all FOMO. It's all pure
Yeah.
FOMO. While we're going, if anyone would like to call in, you can scan that QR code on there. It'll take you and ask you for a name. You don't even have to give us a real name. Or if you are on the chat in YouTube and Twitch, if you type !call, it'll give you a link to click, and then you can call, and then we'll put you on, and then you can tell us the thing about werewolves, because we've been talking about it, and
Yeah.
yeah,
One of my favorite movies
yeah.
too. It's called Dog Soldiers. Have you seen that one?
Dog soldiers. This sounds
Yeah,
familiar,
it's
but
a good one.
I don't know.
It's a werewolf movie too.
Okay.
It's about like this British squad of like special ops people. I think they're special ops, and they're out in like the Highlands of Scotland, and they're telling each other stories and stuff like that, and like talking about how there's these crazy wolves and blah 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 where I'm from, and they're talking about how
Yeah.
big dogs are from where they're from, and then they hear this howling, and they're like, "What the heck is going on?" And like this guy gets just yanked out of like the conversation. It's pretty wild, and they're freaked out by it. They go chasing after him, shooting guns at this creature, can't get him. You know what I mean? And the whole like movie, they are like running from this pack of Wolverines.
Wolverines, huh?
Yeah, whoops, Wolverines.
How much did Hugh
Werewolves,
Jackman get paid?
right?
That's
Of
funny.
werewolves. It's pretty good. The werewolves in that are animated pretty well. They're pretty cool looking.
Animated, huh? Okay, well, I
Yeah, yeah,
guess
CG style. Yeah.
when it comes to werewolves, let's see, we have someone who called in. I am gonna go ahead and transfer you right now. Let me see here. Oh, did you hang up? If you, I was transferring. If someone just called in, I will transfer you right over. I was clicking a button to send you over to us. So go ahead
Call
and click that
back.
button again. What was I about to say? With you were saying something, and I noticed that, but it was
I was talking about that movie, Dog
the
Soldiers.
Dog Soldiers. Yeah, I don't know that one. That sounds. And then I was thinking
It
of
was like
another movie.
2002.
Oh, two.
I just looked it up. Yeah, 2002. It's R-rated, which means it's going to have a good bunch of violence in there.
Oh yeah, there was another werewolf movie. What was it called? Not Bitten, or like Bite or Flesh or something. It was starring that one guy, and it had Elias Cotes, right? It had Elias Cotes. I always remember him. He's one of my favorite actors. Elias Cotes. It was called like Bitten, or something like that. Um, yeah,
I'll search for it.
that one was kind of cheap, but what do you think about like Wolfen? What about Wolfen? What about what's it? The Pack? No, The Hunger? No, The Hunger is David Bowie and Susan Sarandon in that vampire movie. Please go watch that movie. David Bowie, I miss you. Susan Sarandon. still, forever. Phone number's in the link. Click below. You can do
Don't hesitate. Right.
Susan Sarandon
I'll
exclamation
talk you
mark
right through.
call, and I will put you right through, and we will talk, and we can just, chat. Anyway, so
See what
Werewolves.
comes up. Play it by ear.
Play it by ear, maybe we can play a game. So, stupid shit.
That's funny.
I was trying to think of something.
Skinwalkers, he was in.
She was in a movie called Skinwalker?
No, Elias Cotis you're talking about? Skinwalkers?
Was that the movie? It may have been. It may have been Skinwalkers. And it's got like that redhead girl who's British, but then keeps doing the American accent. But I can't remember what else she's been in. Yeah. There was that one.
Skinwalkers.
No, I like Albert Finney in, what is it, Wolfen? Albert Finney, and that one's got Reginald Vell Johnson too, I believe, right? Reginald Vell Johnson, or I think Reginald Vell Johnson, also known as, come on, what's his name? Not Full House, but Steve Urkel and the Winslows, Carl Winslow.
Oh, I don't see him in here. In this one, you think? Let me see.
All right, look up Reginald Vell Johnson and Wolfen with Albert Finney. I would be willing to put money down that, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, because I feel like and I'm not thinking it's Reginald Vell Johnson from Die Hard or Reginald Vell Johnson from Crocodile Dundee. It's Reginald Vell Johnson from a werewolf movie. Right. I swear it. If I'm wrong, if I'm getting the movie mixed up, I'm sorry. No. Man, your faces.
Nope, you're right.
I was right.
Reginald Vell Johnson. Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen,
morgue attendant.
That's right. If anyone would like to play a game with me, that game is called 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, and with that,
first of all, Gregory Hines and Edward James Olmos. Why don't I remember this movie?
Dude, yeah, Edward James Olmos. I just got finished talking to another good friend of mine about how he is hands down one of the greatest actors, ever. In fact, so say we all.
So say we all.
And if anyone wants to fight, then you know what I mean?
Deep reference on that one. Hey, not the other reference. I like that.
Oh, right.
Break it away.
Now, I actually have a very important question, and this one comes from a friend of mine, and I told him what we were going to talk about tonight, and he had a question that really, really, it was interesting. He says, if you get bit by a werewolf, but you have silver teeth fillings, do you die, or does the transformation push them all out of your head?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, that's something that I read into.
Phenomenal.
So, if you watch the movies,
thank you,
Underworld.
Underworld. Okay.
Okay. You remember the Lycan in that? I forget his name now.
Lucian.
Thank you.
Why? Why? Stuck in my head.
Because your brain is full of that stuff. The reason why that he wasn't able to be shot with silver bullets is because they treated him over time, over hundreds of years, to be used to silver. So essentially saying, yes, you could build up a tolerance to silver and never be affected by it as a werewolf, because as a werewolf, a trait also is unnatural healing or faster healing. If you watch that movie Ginger Snaps 2, I keep bringing up movies because that's how I got on the subject of werewolves. I just watched that movie Ginger Snaps again. Hilarious movie. Female werewolf.
Phenomenal. Ginger Snaps is amazing. Yeah. Ginger Snaps Back is amazing. And then there's Ginger Snaps 2 or Unleashed or something.
2 Unleashed.
Man, all right. Canada, you make phenomenal movies. And thank you for Ginger.
Blood, teeth, and fur, by the way.
What? Tell me they got the girls back. Tell me they got those girls back.
Same
I gotta see it.
Oh, no, wait.
What?
A couple of same, not all.
You know what? I don't like watching the Two Stooges with Shemp, and I don't want to see someone else try to take up the mantle of Ginger and her equally creep sister. But
Right. That was a great
Man.
movie. I like the way they did transformation in that, where it wasn't a dark skinned werewolf. That was cool to me. Like something you don't ever think about. Like, okay, well, just because most wolves are dark furred, like there are, white wolves. Why couldn't you have a white werewolf? You know what I mean? I thought that was really cool.
Well, I guess I was, yeah, that makes sense. They did do that in Underworld as well when they had that one prequel where they showed
Yeah,
the
yeah.
brothers who started all of it, and then the very first, werewolf, he apparently was driven mad. He had no control over it, and he went like stark white, like, and I think that was one of those like they did that to show his madness, like like if in It, when Pennywise shows himself to that one kid who's the
Oh
douchebag kid
yeah,
and his
yeah.
hair goes
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
white, right? Like to me
Yeah, it was
they're
crazy.
like to me in that instance the white and the shock and trauma to the point of losing pigment, apparently, which I mean, it is a case. Stress makes people get a shock
Yeah,
of
yeah,
white
yeah.
in their hair. I mean, it just happens. But I
Hello, my
think,
beard.
yeah, right, bro. I
A
mean, I'm
few
I'm a
years ago,
man of
my beard was
stress,
perfectly black. I'm
man.
not even joking.
Yeah.
Perfectly black 2 years ago, and then everything happened. It was crazy white now.
Insane. It's crazy. You know what I mean? But I think that shows that like there's the trauma of it, like forcing you to be ravenous. Like, you know what I mean? Like people who, they used to say, oh, they're hysterical. Throw them in the sanatorium. They'll shock them and drown them until they wake up better
Right. Ice
now.
bath.
Yeah,
Shock 'em, an
give
ice
them an ice
bath.
bath. It'll just be fine now. So, um, man, these cases with werewolves, you know, I, I, I have a hard time. I had a hard time finding one that I thought was actually viable. Something that I thought
Well,
might actually be crossing over into like the real
oh,
world,
like actual believable kind of thing?
like an actual human who is cursed to transform. I mean, look, I don't care if just you have a bad night and and you grow 5 o'clock shadow in the course of an hour. I'll take it. Nothing, even just that, kind of a reaction to the moon. But at the same time, full moon, as the cops will say, it's when the weirdos come out, right? What is it?
Right.
What is it about the natural human attraction to
Well, I
that
mean,
full
if it
moon?
affects the Earth's gravity and pull of waves and all that sort of stuff, who's to say the magnetism being that close to the moon, doesn't affect our lives too, And I'm
Yeah.
not saying so much super drastic, but I am saying, dogs know to sleep north to south sometimes. Most breeds, you know what I mean? It's kind
Yeah,
of a thing.
they'll do
They
that.
figured that out now, you know what I mean? Which I never understood why my dog would do that, circle and then sit up. He only sleeps the same direction. And that's like a normal
Hmm.
thing apparently.
Depends on the dog, I guess. That's really interesting.
Yeah, certain breeds do it, and I was like, oh, that's a weird thing, but it's inherent in their instinct for them to do that. They sleep a certain direction because they're breeding and the where they're from. It's like the wind doesn't blow that direction, and it won't blow into their nose or buttholes.
Hmm.
So that's why they do it. And there's other reasons for it too. But I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy to think. But my dog does it, and he's from that breed or
Hmm.
from one of those breeds.
I was thinking, man's best friend. This is something that, I mean, it's almost every culture, and I say almost every culture just because, yeah, sometimes you just different place and time doesn't happen sometimes, but most people, most cultures have some sort of a relationship to dogs that we refer to dogs as our best friend. Us as the creatures we are, we have a best friend in the animal kingdom. We have an ally, something that cannot really be said that often, and that's what's interesting to me about the curse of a werewolf is it I mean, it's really, you're taking on the worst aspects of one of your best friends. Think about that. You know what I mean? Think about like how much you love a dog, like even a wolf. Like me, I'm one of those guys who loves wolves, and I'm just too smart not to, you know, I don't got the time to devote to a wolf. But I mean, man, if I could, it would be great to just like make sure wolves are like alive and wild and free out there. But but the admiration that so many people have for canines, wolves, dog, the love. I mean, my wife, me, we're always talking about dogs, but skinwalker, werewolf, we pick these horrible aspects, the snarling mouth, that look of that's not my dog. That's a bad dog eyes, right? Like we don't think about taking on the aspects of our friend, and then, hey, look at that. I got the great sense of smell. Follow me, guys. I'll make sure we're fed on the hunt. It's like the madness comes with it. That's
I think
interesting
part of
to
that
me.
too is like, yeah, I think part of that too is like dogs are one of those animals, or one of the few animals too, that are like, I call them switch animals. Like one moment you're petting him and he's the calmest thing ever. And then they hear a knock at the door and they're the most ferocious things. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they go straight into that like protectorate, that anger mode. And a lot of creatures like build up into that sort of thing. You know what I mean? It's like they're afraid, or they're backed into a corner, and that's why they react that way. Whereas dogs, they switch it on, like they switch it to play. That's their
Yeah.
thing. You know what I mean? It's kind of a wild thing. That's why a lot of the werewolf lore and all that is based upon violence, based upon like doing things violently, or having that switch of mind where you go from this normal human to this crazy animalistic creature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was actually trying to look up right now. I was like, man, I wonder what cultures are truly afraid of dogs, because you know how like some cultures are afraid of cats and like have
Culturally,
superstition. Yeah,
a
superstition
cultural
culturally.
aversion to cats, you mean?
I
Okay.
can't find anything.
Really?
Yeah, there's nothing like that's just like, oh, like this culture hates dogs. They're all like, oh, this culture doesn't like them that much because of this, but they don't like hate them. They do
Hmm.
hate cats, or they hate birds. Like, wow, what the, it's kind of a weird thing. Like you're saying, man's best friend. It's like, well, there are not very many cultures that actually really have aversions to dogs. There's always a good reason to have them around. If you watch any kind of like National Geographic or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that too, there's always a dog.
There's
Like
always a
even
dog.
even out in the middle of the jungle where they haven't seen cigarettes or any of that kind of crazy stuff, there's a dog there,
They have
and he's their
dogs.
buddy. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I
There,
mean? They're
there's
afraid of the
something
jaguar,
ancient.
but they live with the jaguar, but they love the dog, and the dog loves them. It's just like a natural thing. It's interesting
It's
that we actually created a werewolf. You know what I mean? From something that we love so much.
in a way, yeah. We've kind of made the dog into, you're just enough wolf to keep me safe if the door gets knocked down, but also,
I'm gonna sleep with one eye open just in case. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
but also, like, yeah, like, man, they're just pure love. I don't know what it is. Like, we've kind of created a werewolf in a way, because, and especially me, anyone who knows me knows I project human qualities onto my dog a lot, but that's because he's probably smarter than your child. Anyway,
oh, I
not
don't like
yours,
that.
Elgin. Not yours,
I don't like
Elgin.
that at
The
all.
random person who's not even
The
listening to
other guy,
this. The other guy. Hey, you back there. Who, me? No.
Nacogdoches.
Knock don't have no kids. Fingers
That's
crossed, Knock.
always Marquise to me.
Marquise.
That's my
Marcus
cousin Marquise.
Aurelius.
Marcus Aurelius, exactly.
That's right. That's funny. I really, that's the thing that really does bring me back to werewolves. It's that connection to the dog. It's the man's best friend thing. Why do we have this creature? Like when I was talking about dragons, I was saying how there's that one guy who believes that dragons are a genetic memory, and that's why everyone sees them as basically cat face, reptile, but flying and bird claws, because those are the creatures that would be attacking.
Predatory, yeah.
Yeah, I mean giant ones. Back in a time when they were big enough to destroy us, birds and lizards and snakes. So there's something ancient about dogs that we both fear and respect, that we know that we need to bring the dog to our side, but we also have like this
Right,
innate,
be on our team, but
but we can't go too far into
right,
your
we can't be
team.
your team. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think maybe the only time it's romanticized is like the Jungle Book and Mowgli, or and with other animals, there's Tarzan, raised by
But
gorillas,
even that, if you
you
think
know.
about that, they're raised by wolves and stuff like that. But they never say like he was raised by wolves, so human friendly. They're like, no, he was raised by wolves, which made him such a wild kid. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like
But
he was
but
wild,
but
and
that's the that's the that's
it's a
the
funny way.
what am I thinking? That's the warning. That's the caution sign, is that, yeah, you can bring them into our world, but beware walking too
Yeah,
far
crossing
the
over. Yeah,
other way,
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, that seems to be like the majority of what all of these old um mythologies are about. I mean, this guy Lycaeus, Lycaon, the king of Arcadia, who chopped up his kid and everything. I mean, really, he did such a horrible act. Like, you're not supposed to hurt your own kids. You're not supposed to hurt anybody, but then your own kid for the purpose of a trick on a
Yeah, to
god.
just
I mean,
trick, man.
it's evil for the purpose of hubris, right? With a
It's the ultimate
dash.
evil, like being
Yeah,
disloyal, like a disloyal dog. Hmm?
exactly. You know what I mean? It's like a bad
Hmm?
dog, like you got to train that out of them. It's a really interesting thing that, like, we kind of walk a fine line with our own best friend. There's still a part of us that, even me, like, as much as I'm just like, I'll act like he's saying real stuff to me, and I know he's not really, but it's like, you also know that if he gets hungry enough, this is a fucking Looney Tunes, and I'm the ham. You know what I
Right,
mean?
exactly. There's so many accounts of that too, where people's dogs, like, they die in their homes and their dogs eat them.
It
You know,
happens. They got to go for the face first.
well, the soft meats.
Soft meats, right? But in the wild, cats, they go for the asshole. You ever see them tear out a elephant?
It's because it's the first place to bite. They grab the tail and then yank all that stuff out.
Terrible.
Pretty
Terrible.
gross.
Have some
Pretty gross.
class. Dear cats.
Chitterlings, I think that.
Nope, nope, no, thank you. I'll pass. I will pass. I can stand a lot of things. I can eat a whole lot of weird things, but for some reason, some of the gutties, you can just keep them over there. I like them.
Yeah,
I like them
I'm
the
the same
flavor
way.
of stock, but I don't know. I don't know. I had a hard time with gizzards that last time you and I went to that spot. I don't know what it was, man.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of acquired taste.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean,
Gizzards, livers, all that sort of stuff.
liver I
All
like. Oh, liver I
I
like.
like liver, and onions, but I'm saying it's an acquired
Yeah,
taste. Like,
it is.
not very many
Yeah,
people can just pop that on some peanut butter bread and go to town. You know what I mean?
man.
It's not
I'll
like a
tell.
quick snack. You know what I mean?
You just made me realize I still have a few levels to go. I still don't want to put my liver on some peanut butter bread.
Actually, I had a friend who used to eat that. That is a weird thing.
That's
It's like sweet frog raw, I guess. I'm like, nah, that's gross sounding to me, but I
I don't
tried it
know.
too, so I can
I mean,
officially say it was gross to me.
yeah, I mean, like chicken livers, chopped chicken liver. I like to go to like a nice Jewish deli and get you like chopped chicken liver, some onions on some rye bread. You know what I mean? If you go to Cantor's on Fairfax, just get the Bronx. You're gonna get an open face pastrami next to the open face chopped liver. You're welcome.
You're
Anyway,
welcome, right?
um,
We don't need any royalties or money back for that. That's just
no,
freebie.
that's just free. Please make sure Cantor's is always there in
But
LA
do
on
send me
Fairfax.
a gift card if you will. I will. I will
Just
utilize that
please.
gift card.
Yeah. You know what? I'll just go. I'll go give the gift card to. No, I want it, man. I want a
I'll
sesame
make a
roll.
trip. I don't care. I'll make a
I want
trip
to
to Cali.
go. It's
He
so
doesn't bother me
good.
at all.
Love that place. But anyway, um,
Oh, I was going
liver.
to bring up another
Yes,
type too. By the
please,
way,
please do
another
this.
type that I thought was interesting. There are beta and delta werewolves, right? So the betas, you're
Let's
ready.
do this.
You're
Let's
dialed
do
in.
it.
Okay.
Yep.
So the betas are like the skinnier versions, almost like the one that was in Harry Potter, like you were talking about. No, or yeah,
No,
not the ones you were talking about, but
because his
the
name is
professor.
Remus. His name is Remus,
Remus.
and so
Yeah, yeah.
that is a reference to the other
Right, to
brother of Rome.
Roman.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that size, that's how they describe them, being like really skinny and frail, but being able to talk and communicate. And they are basically like the smaller pack werewolves in the pack, so that way they are slaves to the alphas and the berserker class is the other one that I looked up.
And so this Berserker class, again, it makes me, anytime Berserker is ever going to get brought up, I want to go back to the Vikings. And again, when I was talking
Very
about,
similar, yeah.
13th warrior. He went from Baghdad to the Nordic regions. He met with the Vikings, and the Vikings were the ones talking about these dog-faced people, which turned out to be people in costume to fear. Because I mean, honestly, yeah, you know what? Paint your face like a demon and scream, "I eat babies," and you know what? Maybe that
Probably
village,
are. Yeah,
that
probably are.
village over there won't mess with our village anymore. I mean, it seemed
Fear is
to
a
have been
pretty
a
good
lot
deterrent.
tougher 1,000
Fear is a
years
good
ago.
deterrent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Especially
know
when
if
you ain't got
anyone else read
the
a book,
internet and
but
can't look that
it
up.
seems
You know what I
pretty
mean?
tough back then, guys. You know what I mean? It truly was kill or be killed. And so,
There's no, hey Siri, what is this?
yeah, exactly. It's like, that is an arrow going into your skull.
Stop calling him Dogface, you racist.
Yeah, exactly.
He's wearing a headpiece.
Actually, in the year 1689, we prefer to use vernacular that is a little more inclusive.
Right. Yeah.
Now,
super PC.
yeah.
That's awesome. Serious.
Would you like me to assign Go to the Midden Heap to Tuesday's schedule?
Right.
Right.
Oh yeah. But
Time to
anyways, like I
separate.
was reading about those, the Berserker class too. I and see here's where I kind of differ with the werewolves. So and like you were talking about the Inkadu.
Enkidu, yeah, Enkidu.
So them, the dog people, dogmen of I forget where it is. It's over in England, in Europe.
Yeah.
The dogmen, berserker, and I forgot the last one, but the berserker class, like I wouldn't consider them werewolves because it's not a transition.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'm like, we're on the same ideals of that, right? Like,
yeah,
it's a great class. I think it's awesome that they have the same attributes. They think like humans, stuff like that. But because they don't change, I'm like,
the idea that there is an entire culture of people that are anthropomorphic canines. Yeah, I did research into that this week too, because we were doing werewolves, and I'm at the conclusion that there is a clear delineation between the idea of a race of people who were people, and then they were assigned a look that was
right, yeah,
but the other thing too is werewolves are never talked about wearing clothes, but those people wore clothes. Those dog people, they were talked about as wearing clothes. So that's why my brain always wants to be like, come on, it's just racism from 800 years ago. Of course, just say that they look like dogs, right? They lay eggs, or they have horrible face features, and they've got make it up. I don't know. They look different. Pick something, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't get it, you know?
Yeah.
But you know, in these times where, like, look, if you're bold enough to travel across that sea, which is like it's like a river to us these days, but like, if you're bold enough to travel that sea, you're going to find demons in almost human flesh. And it's like, I guess you just gotta try to keep people safe from just leaving the pack, even the human pack. And again, in these days, if people feel like they need to dress up as dog people to scare the neighboring townspeople from coming into our territory, then who the hell knows how far people are going to go, man? You know, I mean, like, you're living in the wrong continent, by the way. The moment I find out, hold on, how far north? Don't tell me that we're far enough. I'm going south.
Further. Yeah.
South. That's me. I don't want to live on the same area as, like, man, I wanted to leave America when I thought that people were going to keep doing bath salts, and I thought there was a connection between eating faces.
I thought the zombies were coming, man. I thought that was the time. I was like, I've been preparing for this for years. Video game training and all the shooting I do, I'm ready.
I would like to say that I've also been preparing for years, but I've just been hoping. I'm sorry. I've just been hoping. You know, I haven't been putting anything back into the hope.
The worst part, I'm like, damn it, just Florida again.
Oh, it's always. And the best part is the one guy didn't even have any drugs in the system. Why were you chewing on the lady, man? What are you doing? Why are you chewing on him?
You always know it's going to be a wild news story when it says Florida man or
Which
Florida
brings us
woman, you're like,
to it's just
Jesus,
time.
here
It's
we
just
go.
time. You know what, everyone? Welcome. Today is, I believe, the 6th of September? Or is it August?
It is September.
Man. Ladies and gentlemen, in a few short days, on the 11th, there will
Hey,
be.
Andrew, just hungry. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's up, man? Just hungry. Yeah. On the 11th of this month, people are going to be celebrating their 21st birthday.
Go on.
I just, it's just a thing to say out loud. I don't even have more thoughts to it. But the people who were born on the day that was the 11th of the 10th or the 9th of the month and back in 2001, they're gonna be drinking and celebrating like their life made it 21 years that day. That's wild, right? And we got like 4 more days for that, 4 or 5. That's
Right.
insane. But there never was a sighting of a werewolf that day 21 years ago. So that brings us to Florida man
That's what Andrew's
werewolf
talking about. He was just
enter.
hungry.
Oh, he was just hungry. He was got it.
That's why he
Florida
was chewing on
man
the face.
in werewolf mask allegedly burned, shocked. Let's see where else this is going. Oh, never mind. I
Should
don't
have just
like
typed in
this.
Florida werewolf and see what came up.
Yeah, no, it's
There's
this
2 of them
guy.
actually, but
Yeah, and it looks like the both of them are the same, and I don't like it. Did you read what these guys did? These guys,
no, not those ones. I
nah,
read the one where the lady videotaped a werewolf in her backyard, and you can see the video. It looks nothing like a werewolf, and she really has mental problems. If you read into her,
I've been seeing a few more people. You know, as you go down the rabbit hole of researching things, you find the true believer who,
this lady would be
bless
great as
their
a
heart, I think is what they
exactly,
say in the state I live in.
exactly.
You know,
I was going to say this lady is the kind of lady that I would love to have on the show just to talk to her and
really?
hear all of her stories because they are wild, and I pronounce that correctly.
What was that girl's name? What was that one lady's name? Was it Missy or Kitty? But do you have her? Can you get a hold of her? You know who I'm talking about. The reptilians living under Big Island.
Oh,
Not that, I mean, don't go knocking on her door or
no,
anything, man.
I do have her name in the back of my head. I thought it was
It's like
Stacy or
Kitty.
something like that, or Kid. Yeah,
It's like
it's something
Kitty
like
or
that.
Missy
Yeah,
or something like that.
I think I
Yeah,
have her in my phone that way I could block her. I added her to my list because I'm like,
a
oh my
smarter
god,
man than me. A smarter
don't
man than
don't,
me.
don't want to answer her phone call on accident and get into that long conversation.
I mean, if you pick up the phone, you're already halfway into the conversation.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah, she's like, yeah, where have you been? We've been talking.
yeah, where'd you go? I wasn't done telling you. So then, and then they are aliens too. Oy vey. Now with movies of lycanthropy and werewolves, we've kind of touched on that. The idea of that those people in that town way over there, they sure are. But the werewolves of being afflicted by a curse, or even maybe this is the way of our
Those are
people,
called Wolfmen, yeah,
Wolfman. Now, what
or
about
Man Wolf.
Stephen King's Sleepwalkers movie? Right now, this one was a real interesting take on. And you know what? Did you find out what the word is when it's basically lycanthropy, but it's not specific to wolf? 'Cause I couldn't find that word. I could not find that word.
No, let me look it up. I did look it up on my phone. Let
I
me look it up in the computer real quick.
I couldn't find the word. I mean, it has something to do with metamorphosis or whatever, but um, you know, man, about the curse or whether it's passed on genetically, it's not something that anyone enjoys. It's always portrayed as, I mean, any of these curses that seem to give you long life are always, that's the one thing I find fascinating is that humans talk about things like, living forever or stuff. But anytime like you actually have someone who has enough imagination to like write dialogue, setting, and plot, like the imagination of what it is to live forever. I mean, it becomes boring, monotonous, and hell, just the existence in itself, and is part of the reason that you become less human, more inclined, and in the vampire sense at least, more inclined to relish the fact that your food fights back. You know what I mean, the werewolf, on the other hand, wakes up. Oh my goodness, what am I covered in? Please let it be a deer. You know what I mean? Like it's a hangover. It's I can't believe I got so drunk again. You know, it is happening again. and, but and even when they are cursed to like live forever and they'll live for hundreds of years or something, but vampires holding on to most of their mind allows their entire mind and quote unquote spirit, soul, persona, whatever, to be corrupted. You know, the werewolf is still a victim at least once a month when he inflicts pain on those around him. It's
Well, I mean,
weird.
I guess it depends on like the level or the type of werewolf too that they talk about.
Exactly.
Because some can control their transformation, others are controlled by the moon cycles. So
And so the ones that are control their change, they change without a full moon?
yeah, they can change without full moon with either the berserk. Well, not the berserkers. The alphas are the ones that can change using like anger or rage or whatever, some sort of violent feeling. And then most of the other ones are either controlled by the moon or controlled just by like getting
Yeah.
hurt or something like that, like a natural like a defense mechanism kind of a thing.
It's like
They only can do it. They can only do it during like a defense or a fight is when it comes out. It's not something that they can just like flip a switch. The alphas and all the other high end ones can.
so it's kind of like David Banner fixing a tire on the side of the
Yeah,
road, and
exactly.
then all of a sudden you slice your hand and jing.
Bang, yeah, bang, you rip the tire and the axle out.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah, like and that's kind of the interesting too, is all the ones that can change, like they have the choice of changing. They're all the smart ones. They're all the ones that aren't as animalistic as regular werewolves, whereas the other ones that have
Where's that
no.
information? Can you send that to me right now? Actually, I'd like to see that because what you're talking to me, it sounds like the subplot that was invented for Underworld.
There's a bunch of them. Yeah. I mean, part of it's from Underworld, part of it's from a bunch of different videos that I watch. I'll
But
send you the video links too.
does that movie Underworld have good solid roots in some sort of
Yeah.
mythology in
Yeah. The
in our
mythology that
actual world?
the mythology, the guy that wrote it, he's actually one of the actors in it too. Um, he used a lot of the mythos that he liked, and he obviously added some stuff to it where like they had like metal claws and stuff like that. They don't talk about that in any of the mythos besides Underworld and
Metal claws.
Van Helsing. But
Okay.
that's total different reason for Van
Yeah.
Helsing. If you get into that one, it's kind of cheesy, but whatever.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
one was cheesy.
we can talk about that one if you like. It's an archangel slash
that one
werewolf, like
that one went a
a
whole
bit far
other
from me.
way.
Yeah.
So he was the Archangel Gabriel with amnesia, right?
Yes. He
Okay.
asked God to remove his memory so he wouldn't remember what he did to his friends, and then he became a monster hunter,
So he wouldn't know what he did to his friends. What did he do to his
or to his
friends?
friend or something like that. He killed his friend.
He killed his
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah, that was the story in the movie. I remember that part.
I don't remember that part. Yeah, that's so
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
I feel like it was yeah, I mean don't get me wrong.
Or he had something to do with his friend dying, something to that degree.
That was, that was made to be fun, not made to be like, hey, we're really gonna start putting together some cool. They tried it with that Wolfman that Benicio del Toro. They tried to do that with the Luke
Yeah, yeah,
Evans
yeah.
Dracula Untold, and then Tom
I like
Cruise's
that one too.
Mummy.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be part of the monster verse. They were going to be doing Dracula, Mummy, Frankenstein. They were going to modernize it.
Cool.
But it didn't go through. None of the movies did well enough, and I mean, look, if you would have stopped at you know, if they would have stopped at Edward Norton's Incredible Hulk movie and said, "No, MCU's not
Right.
viable
It's
because
not good
this
enough.
last,"
Yeah.
then I mean, then yeah, then you would have deserved not to make an MCU. But like, guys, you made 3 movies based on like way more big characters than even Marvel. Like, these are characters that come from around the world, and you know, like
Yeah. International. Right.
yeah, you know, Frankenstein is Romanian, so is Dracula, and you know, these things come from a whole part of the world.
Transylvania, 65,000.
Hey,
Just
you know
remind me
what?
of that movie. Or 65,000. That's it.
Any movie that has Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis, that's it.
Yeah.
What?
What was the other one? High Spirits?
No, High
Or
Spirits
High
was,
something?
hang on, High Spirits was Steve Guttenberg, Beverly D'Angelo, Liam Neeson.
Gina Davis was in that too.
Who?
Gina Davis, you're talking about, right? Isn't that the lady? Wait, or am I thinking
No,
of?
it's not Gina Davis. It's Daryl Hannah.
Oh, Daryl Hannah.
Daryl Hannah. Yes,
Damn
from
it, you're right.
Splash.
Yeah.
Ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen, where
I was
are
thinking,
we? I'm gonna clip this. I'm gonna clip this.
Take your win. It's fine.
There
I
we
don't
go.
ever
Clip.
protest to no.
I just like to remember things. I don't like to look it up. You know, I've
What
only
was that
even
movie?
seen.
What was that other movie where she was in? She was a pirate.
Oh, that was Cutthroat Island, with also
Cutthroat
starring
Island.
Matthew
All right.
Modine.
Yeah. All right.
Papa. Yep,
Way
Matthew
off,
Modine.
way off subject, but
We are.
Sorry.
Let's see. Matthew Modine was in Full Metal Jacket, and that was made by... Nope. Kubrick didn't make any werewolf movies, did he? Nope.
I don't know.
Unless you consider the 8 Men in the beginning of 2001: A Space Odyssey to be close enough, but I don't. So why would you even bring it up?
That's not a gimme. That's no gimme.
It's
there.
not a gimme. No mulligans here. We've already thrown out the Dogmen. But the basically
Not throwing them out, just not
no,
the same.
I'm throwing him out of werewolves. I'm throwing him out of lycanthropy.
Not the same,
because like literally, I'm gonna take the firm stance that that's just old racism. Because I mean, if you can't even be creative enough to turn them, oh, they look like animals. Oh, but yeah, I mean, you know, they wear clothes, they go about their time, and you know, they have bakeries, and you know, they have like the butcher shop and everything. And don't get me wrong, I really like their bracelets and stuff, so I'm going there for like to get my
You're an
wife.
accessory guy.
But they're dog face people. It just sounds like racism to me. Whereas like a werewolf means this might be someone you love, or might have been your homie from the bar, but once a month he becomes the person who is the most danger to all of us. You know,
right?
And that is
there's
hugely
been accounts
different.
There was reading something too where there was accounts where people were back in the 15 and 1600s where they were building like not cages per se, but like places for werewolves to go and change and not hurt anybody during the full moon. So they had like these tubes in the ground basically with like chain over the top or like silver grates over the top. That way that they wouldn't change and kill all the villagers. It was like part of a, I don't want to say like your what do they call that infrastructure, but that's kind of how it was. Like, okay, you got to build the roads like this, and by the way, don't forget your werewolf trap, and
don't forget the werewolf trap.
Leave it open if you hear something. Yeah, leave it open if somebody's in there after the full moon. You know who it is, and take care of him. Break every bone in his body. Apparently, tie him to a wagon wheel, drown him, and then cut his head off. To be sure.
I mean, I know that I mentioned this before, but it's like I just really think that if anyone is ever going to try to take me out, do it just like that. Do it just like Rasputin. I want it to be a story, everyone. Like, and then I don't care if like there's witnesses or not. I want the story to say, and he kept getting back up. We were in terror. We had to find another way. That's what I want. A Rasputin.
I want to go out with a question mark, not with a story. That's my difference.
No, I don't know.
I want to go out like I forget the comic who says, you know, he walked up to this steps in front of, or not steps, the sidewalk in front of Empire State Building, and this guy wearing a wetsuit and goggles sets down a cup, and then he sees him. He goes up the elevator
Mhm.
with him, goes up to the top. He sees a guy looking down. And he
Yep.
puts the mask on, puts the thing in, and you're thinking, is this guy trying
Is
to
he really
kill
gonna do it?
himself,
Yeah.
or can he really do it? Like, because he seems so confident. I mean, he set it down and moved it over just right.
Oh, looks like I lost you for a second there on the feed. Yeah, here we go. You're
Oh,
back.
you're back.
Yep.
Anyways, it's like, wow, he moved it just right so he would land in that water cup. But wait, you can't land in a water cup. Like, he did it like he knew he could. Like, I want it to be all questions. I don't want anybody to have any answers. I want it to be like, how in the hell? Why would Elgin do that?
I just want it to be like that anime that was made by the guy who did Akira, where like
Yeah.
where like the smell is just coming off of me, and like I have to
Yeah.
just, and everyone's running from me because like I got injected with a thing that makes all the air like, oh no, hey, I'll save us, it's me, the hero. Nope. That would be a great way. I mean, but really, I think that werewolves. Oh, let's talk about the ways to kill a werewolf. We haven't even deep dive into that so far. I mean, besides, I mean,
There's so many ways, and it's not a very definitive thing. So
it's not a definitive thing, but it really seems like they always go for silver bullets or silver, right? But then
right,
the deep track is it doesn't matter if you've got a silver bullet or not. The gun must be fired by someone who truly loves you.
right,
It's got
right.
to be painful.
Yeah,
It's got to be for all of our benefit. Like, hey, I love you. You're
the
my
greater good.
husband/wife, and I wanted to live a whole life. But, well, you're a werewolf now, and I am the only one who can break the spell by ending you. I get to live with the guilt. Like, it's never a
guilty
happy
sacrifice. You know what I mean? A sacrifice
never.
always.
Yeah, you're never rewarded in mythology, man. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I cut the head off a Hydra. Guess what, bud? You don't know much about Hydras, do you? There's 6 more heads behind you, and each head is growing new bodies now. So get at it, son. Get at it. You know,
right?
werewolves are definitely up there, man. They you hope to kill them, and then by the time you finally do, oh, we finally killed it. Look down, everyone. It's Uncle James. He just made he made dinner last night. Where the hell? Where's the animal? And you're looking at your best friend. Terrible. Is that more?
It's
Loop
actually
Guru?
It's one of the ones that were like
Loop Garu. Is that more?
I don't know that
Garu?
one.
Are we talking about from One Punch Man, Garu, the one who wanted to be a monster? Because because I cannot wait for season 3 of One Punch Man. Yeah, I'm Saitama. Anyway, I'm just bald.
Oh, sorry. We were talking about killing them too, but there's this one movie that I watched way back. I can't remember, not way back, but a while back, a couple years. I can't remember the name of it. It's the one where there's like a werewolf on the train. The train like derails, and then they like find out that this guy's a werewolf. He changes in front of them, kills somebody. They kill him, and then like he lets out like this cry that other werewolves come in, like his pack are like now trying to kill all them on the train. It was kind of it was an interesting one, but it was also like I don't know. It kind of made it like, okay, if you beat up, it kind of made werewolves weak in my mind. Because it was like if you stab them, beat them up, do enough damage, and then remove their head, they can't heal themselves. And I was like, I don't know if I like that so much, but it makes them weaker in my mind first. Secondly, it's like, okay, well, it's less scary if you can't heal after you get too much damage. Like, what's the point of having healing if you have too much damage and you can't? I mean, like a big bullet would have to do it, or set on fire. Wouldn't that do it too? Like in Benicio del Toro's movie, like that guy kills his dad by kicking him into fire and taking his head off.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, the ultimate, ablution, if you will.
It's always destroy the brain. It's like, it doesn't matter if we're talking about zombie or like dad drank too much and it's Tuesday, so we're either gonna have to live with it again, or this is the Tuesday we stand up. Dad, I have a great dad. I just love making these jokes.
Like,
it's so funny. I have such a great
your dad. I love him.
He's such a good guy, and so like I don't know why I make this weird shit up. But anyway,
The one person, like, I hope he's not watching today.
He's like the chillest dude ever, honestly. Like, people have said your dad's like Bob Hope, and I'm like over here anyway. So
your dad could be, a werewolf too. He's all calm and he's probably an alpha. I mean,
that's what it is.
that would be
isn't
my
it?
assumption. As
He's
smart
too
as
commanding. He's too
he has it
commanding of a presence.
so under control that he never even needs to use it. Like, wow.
All right, you know what?
Pops Caffey, I never knew.
I know I'm in my mid to late 30s, and I thought I was past this stage of my life, but now that I've realized my dad's a werewolf, I have to start really trying to piss that guy off again.
I'm saying it right now. That's the new conspiracy for this episode.
This conspiracy episode.
It explains your hair. It explains
episode 12.
Some things.
Werewolves. We discovered my father just might be one.
I believe it.
And this is where I'm going to do this. I'm going to go doc. I'm going to click soundboard, and then I'm going to say, my dad might just be one. The soundboard didn't want to work. All right, never mind. Well, it was supposed to be a suspenseful Star Trek, the original theme song. But anyway.
Awesome.
I really think that, with werewolves, there's not enough for how much that we keep putting them in media. And there are some media that I'm just not even going to touch. When it's made for teens, tweens, kids, and it's all about being pretty.
I never brought it up.
Not gonna. Bring it up. I just I
want to promote that in any sort of way.
With great umbrage, do I even allow myself to have it in my mind right now? But
if I had to wear a hat, it would say "Keep monsters great again."
Exactly, make monsters great again. Take away the shimmer.
Double MAGA.
Take away the shimmer. I mean, first of all, I don't know.
Glitterless monsters.
All right, you know what? Actually, I realize I do have something to say. I'm going to talk about the Twilight series because we're talking about. I'm doing it.
Logging off.
Logging off. You want to talk about creep? Look. This thing is for like little teen girls or whatever. But first of all, as soon as the girl turns 18, she goes and gets like super vampire pregnant, has a baby in 2 days. And then the boy who was trying to fuck her, who's a werewolf, he like mentally fucks the baby. And now he has to wait 18 years before he can marry. Yo. This is not something for little kids.
Who wrote this?
This is disgusting. This is why Pornhub. That's why Pornhub is filled with step family stuff. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to look like step family. Ooh, or like the word like every time taboo. Everything's got to be nasty. I want to be on those
pitch meetings, though. Don't you want to be on that pitch meeting? It's like, now hear me out. Like, how do you explain that one? The same thing like Game of Thrones, like, hear me out, okay? Like, oh God, how would you pitch that with confidence and not feel just like a carpet bagging vacuum salesman sleazy, the worst sleazy I can think of? You know what I mean? Like,
what you have to do, you have to not tell anyone that there is going to be so much penis. Like, you just leave that out, guys. We're gonna have dragons. There's gonna be magic. We're gonna
post after.
We're gonna have a great old time, and then then you show episode 1 to the boss, and he's just like, "That was a lot of cock."
That was a lot of cock. Exactly. I think it's great. Little tidbit.
Yeah, that was a whole lot of cock.
You sure we need so much of that in there? Some of that had nothing to do with the storyline. He was out of camera frame.
This comes from a book, I thought. This comes from a book. There weren't pictures in the book when I flipped through it. Now, granted, it's still on my desk, but it was the paper kind of book, right? Not the pictures kind of book.
Paper one, right?
I touched that paper. That wasn't pictures paper. I know that much. I'm in pictures. I sign papers. So, werewolves in movies, there's nothing new that can be done with it. I think that they're kind of overused. We don't have enough history. We don't have enough like real good I think that people stretch when it comes to werewolves. We want werewolves to be real for whatever reason, and so we keep attributing literally, absolutely. If anyone goes online, if you can prove me wrong at 9midnight@gmail.com and 9midnight anywhere, show me where in the Bible it actually does look like someone's talking about a werewolf, and it just says something like, "Oh, he was a bad guy,
Specifically, please.
and he was so bad it was basically he could have been a animal." Well, that's not saying that he transmorphed into a dog man that could like slash open his mom's throat, because he didn't even
Or it's
recognize
just
her
a
as his
large,
mom that
hairy
time.
human, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean,
You could have made it a snouted human. I'd be like, all right, well, kind of doggish.
I mean, you know what? If you can, I mean, any time someone is, and honestly, even the king who just had to go graze like an animal, man, he didn't ever look like an animal. He just had to act like an animal and a cow.
Right,
You
right.
know, like there's nothing in there. Like the actual history just seems like Bigfoot
Vague,
almost.
like vaguish,
So vague.
I'm like, okay, they just left it wide open. They could have just been like, he's really gross and weird looking.
Now,
And the same thing as saying he's like an animal who grazes of the, like, you're describing what you're trying to describe him as, you know what I mean?
I'm curious if the whole silver connotation, because I believe that vampirism has some connection to, at least modern day people will do it. They'll relate it to like Judas Iscariot, right? He sold out his homie Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. Now the element that which he valued so much is his bane, his anathema to his very self. If he touches silver, he dies, right? So, is there something, like with werewolves, does he have some kind of, where does the silver play in?
It basically, and this is another little bit of research I did because I looked that up too. I was wondering why does silver kill a werewolf? It's in my show notes here.
Yeah.
Basically, it's associated with the moon and the moon color. Silvery moon, you see, so
by
it controls
the light of the
exactly.
silvery moon.
That's exactly what it is.
That's
so
what
like
it is.
or a moon rock. If a werewolf was ever touched by a moon rock, it would be fatal. So kind of like kryptonite, you know what I mean? Color of kryptonite.
But yet the moon is what brings out. So the moon is what brings it out.
It's what brings them to life. So therefore, it's what can kill them as well. That kind of a thought.
It's interesting.
Same thing like Superman, you know, like that's why I said that.
Yeah, well, but if Superman goes closer to the yellow sun, then he comes back.
Yeah, right. I'm talking about Krypton, not. That's where all that comes from.
But the moon powers the werewolf, like yellow sun powers Superman. Without the yellow sun, he wouldn't be Superman. Without a moon, there wouldn't be. But the yellow sun doesn't kill him.
No, but he's not born of the sun. He's stronger because of the sun. He always could fly and all that, but
I'm going to make him get his calculator out. Anyone watching, he's going to get a calculator really soon. He's going to call me out on my math.
Need some abacus, like,
right? Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to get. You know what, guys? I don't know how to use an abacus.
Right, exactly. What the hell is this thing? I've been moving stuff around all day. Can't figure it out.
I've been playing with this thing for 5 minutes, and I swear for the last 3 minutes I thought I was a child in a doctor's office. Anyway,
right? I cannot figure out this puzzle. Anyway, still behind me.
Throwing it away. I would like. I used to think I would like to be a werewolf if I could pick. We know werewolf or vampire.
Really?
Out of those two.
I don't know. Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, all right. Which curse of living for a long time? But no, I know now that it's definitely. I'd have to pick vampire. I'd have to.
Yeah. That's a good one. I wonder, because is there more dark time than there is light time on Earth?
Depends on where you live. You know, there was that 30 Days of Night movie.
And then the other thing to think about, if we're talking modern age or back in, medieval times, which are we talking about? We talking about right today. If I had to pick, it would have to be vampire.
I think vampire. I mean, do I slowly have my human morality corrupted into looking at, what used to be fellow humans as nothing more than meat bags? I don't think I've got far to go from where I stand now.
I got a question for you right now,
too.
So are you the monstrous vampire, or are you the Count Dracula not turning into a giant, monster bat?
Well, I think on the scale
I can't
of
remember the name of
like
the movie with Brad Pitt and not Brad
Brad
Pitt.
Pitt, yeah,
It is Brad Pitt,
it
right?
is. There's Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise. It's the
Yeah, yeah.
vampire. It's the vampire interview with the vampire.
Interview with
Yeah.
a Vampire.
There's
Yeah,
Tom Cruise plays Lestat, who and Brad Pitt plays Louis, and then in that movie with a dignified English vamp. Andrew Holohan has a good question. To be a dignified English
yeah,
vamp.
exactly, very much like the show that we all love,
I love it. It's so
the
good.
Dark Shadows.
But gosh, Matt Berry
Shape of a Bat.
Matt Berry is the greatest actor. He's got the greatest voice. Everyone go out there and watch The Mighty Boosh right now. Start with season 1 because that's the best.
I got to figure out how to get him on Cameo to read my eulogy. I think that would be cool. Between him and like a great narrator's voice, that would be awesome. Because if it has a bunch of jokes, I want him to punch it up and make it funny.
I just want I would like him to be, I don't know, thank you for calling 70232, and 70 and 20 and make it, and I'll be just fucking like the most basic of like answering machine messages.
Right, a simple answering machine.
Yeah, the most perfect thing, like or it's like the elevator opens. It's like, thank you for coming to J.C. Penney. Like, is there a J.C. Penney anymore? I'm pretty like
so.
In the house these days. So hiding from that moon before it turns me into a werewolf. Ugh,
You're already too many generations behind. I think that's why you can't be a werewolf, because
I couldn't be. Right? Be. It's like a recessive gene. My kid might get it.
Yeah, like you got a part of it, but it skipped you. Exactly.
Yeah, I get the hair. I get the hair.
You got all the weird traits, but none of the, or not weird traits. You get all the looks and the temperance for eating meat and all that.
I mean, man, I've tried to go vegan. I mean, I love eating vegetables; they're so good. But then all of a sudden,
even better with a piece of meat next to them.
And man, all of a sudden, I start tasting the flesh of a once living creature, and I'm just like.
I don't know, for me, if it's a once living thing. I just like to play.
I know. I just like to be mean about it.
I just want to put a disclaimer on that. I'm an animal lover.
I am an animal lover too, and especially with salt and peppers. Yes, but I mean,
taste and living.
I think that all animals are great. I really do. I think that cows are really intelligent creatures, and if they didn't taste so good, we wouldn't eat them. But also, we also live in a world where we made too many cows. What are you going to do with all these fucking cows now?
Right.
You got 100,000 fucking cows per capita. We got to eat them now.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. Back to werewolf. So, did you find anything in any of your research where it talks about werewolves just eating animals, or besides killing animals, not eating them, or but eating them?
You mean like sport hunt, kill animals, not eating?
Yeah. So you know how like vampires, they'll suck blood of cows, stuff like that, or like aliens abduct animals and stuff like that, but like. All the stuff I found is like they would kill them if they're in the way, but not like sport hunting, like killing them for food, for snacks instead of humans. It's always werewolves attacking humans or werewolves attacking a vampire because they're one of the only monsters that can kill vampires, supposedly.
So it's like vampire and zombie and a little bit of werewolf. Those seem to have once you get infected, one of the first thing that happens is, well, hey, okay, you have an infection. You're scared. Well, what do? Well, you go home, right? The people at home love me. They'll take care of me. They'll make sure I get better. By the time you get home, your mind has been warped into I can't wait to eat my siblings and mother and the family. I'm going to eat them and just destroy their bodies because now I'm a vampire demon, right? Like and like the zombie, like you go home or you go to the mall, you go to the place you're comfortable with, and you find people who are hiding out because these are human places. There's something
like your habits.
Yeah, and even as the
turns
werewolf,
you into your instincts again.
Yeah,
your
the
lower
werewolf
instincts,
too. With even the loved one who has to kill you. Like not only like okay, if I get turned into a werewolf, the biggest curse is for my wife, man.
Right?
Shit, I hope she loves me enough that
Oh,
I hope my wife loves me enough that she can kill me if I turn into a werewolf. Because if she doesn't really love me, then I'm gonna eat her.
oh.
But I won't know till the next morning.
You won't know. Yeah, I mean, you'll either wake up dead or that kind of a thing.
It's a moose. 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 Where's the antlers? Stop asking questions. I don't know, man. I think that the werewolf seems to be Lon Chaney. You know, Lon Chaney. I know that we go back to movies a lot, but especially with werewolves, movies are where the lore was built. Stories, not real myth, not so much actual legends. You know, vampirism has weird things. Werewolves seem to be, I mean, actively more made up, more fiction put in. I think when a werewolf comes up, it's like it's more like a fable than an actual beware, because people in our town are want for that path in life. You know, I mean, it's
Yeah, it
like
is kind of one of those monsters that's never like a warning monster, like a hey,
yeah,
you shouldn't go in those wolves kind of or in woods because there's wolves. It's like, oh no, there's a werewolf in there. No one
yeah,
ever says that. That's not a thing. It's
you
like
know.
they're total mythos, total like I
Well,
don't know, like
actually, if anyone ever warns you of a werewolf, you know it's a joke. But if anyone ever says, beware the moles at night, that's when you know, get back in the car. I'm sorry. I didn't want to get dropped off here. Take me all the way into town, please. I really
right,
don't know
this Uber
why I would
sucks.
stop here anyway. I mean, come on, guys. Jack. Anyway,
Who goes to the
uh,
moors at night? That's just dumb.
they just kept walking and laughing like it wasn't fucking creepy as hell. Like
I
it wasn't
mean,
the Moors.
without that stupid innocence, we wouldn't have that great movie. So
It looked like the
I
Swamp of
guess.
Sadness. It looks like the Swamp of Sadness from Wolfgang Petersen's The Never-Ending Story.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You
I don't know
know.
why I went to Labyrinth. I was like, that's not what it was called. It was called
No,
the
that was the
Bog of
Bog of
something.
Eternal Stench.
Yeah, Bog
Yeah,
of something. Yeah.
that was the Bog of Eternal Stench, where I think Hoggart, Hoggle, Hoggle,
Hoggle. Hoggle.
Hoggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does remind me. You remind me of the baby. Anyway, we're not doing that right now. I think that werewolves don't have much more else to do. I looked long and hard, I mean, there's lots of Roman stuff. I did skip over a lot. I mean, as far as actual Roman stuff, the Romans were about it. They say that Romulus and Remus were suckled by a wolf, and the people who were like the ancient Roman, like Holy Roman Empire type stuff, like the emperors and all of their court, the true Roman people were about wolves. So that is for real. They felt a kinship and a love toward the wild wolf, and there are tons of stories that people insert themselves. It seems to like, and I'm a wolf too. I'm Emperor
Right, me
Nero, and
too.
so
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm part wolf too, descendant. Me too. But it's not really so much like, all right, well, you know how we don't talk about cousin Billy? Well, he got scratched as a kid, and we killed the dad, and we waiting him to grow up, but it's never like
You
that.
sounded like the dad from Teen Wolf.
The dad from Teen Wolf.
when he was explaining it to him,
Well, it's just a part of the way things happen. It's look at me. I'm a very
my
normal,
father's
nice looking man.
father, and
Yeah, we were hoping it would skip you, but it looks like you're just a late bloomer.
exactly.
Now it's time to hang out with your friend Styles. How come I never had a friend named Styles? I feel like one of us should have taken the mantle.
No, that guy. I
I
mean,
know, he
for
was
what?
terrible.
Yeah, he was terrible, and I was a bully when I was a kid, but that man's terrible.
What? You weren't a bully. You were my friend.
I was a bully. I was your friend, but I was a bully.
Wait, was I a bully? Oh,
Had a
ladies
side
and
eye.
gentlemen, I think all of a sudden we're done with werewolves. No,
I was a teenage bully.
I was a teenage bully, and that's when I should have an effect that goes dun dun dun.
Right, teen bully.
Teen bully, yeah. And my dad also got fired from Full House. Whoa! Sorry, look, hey, if you ask me to come in and take Jesse Stamatopoulos of applesauce, applesauces,
Stephanopoulos.
Cephalopoulos, pork chops and applesauce.
Pork chops and applesauce.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't think of anything
Okay,
else. I have 1,000
last
fucking
little
things
thing.
up in front of me. Nothing's
Last little thing that I thought about.
Let's get it.
Who do you think would win in a fight?
Okay.
Not with a werewolf and any monster, any traditional monster.
Say this again. Say this. Start over. Who would win in a fight?
In a fight, traditional werewolf, right? Can change from man to human, controls himself mentally, all there.
That's not traditional, I think.
I'll put I'll put those stipulations in it because it makes it a better fight, right?
Okay, so basically a dog Hulk. Go on.
Yeah, besides a vampire, who do you think is a good fight?
I mean, it depends on what kind of vampire as well. Is it the kind of...
We're saying no vampire. No vampire.
No vampire.
In any shape. Nope, vampire, you can't use them in the fight.
Okay,
has to be any other monster.
Any other monster. What other possibly...
Swamp Thing. You can go wild. I don't care.
Swamp Thing?
I said go wild.
That's DC Comics, man.
It's a monster, bro. Mummy. That's also in the comic books.
The Skinwalker. I feel like Skinwalker is very close to that.
Did Skinwalker heal itself?
But the Skinwalker's like cursed. They seem like Gollum in a way,
more like a spirity kind of thing, huh?
But
you say like Gollum? Oh, huh.
Well, no. So you basically have to commit cannibalism, and then you become a Skinwalker. I think that you're cursed with an eternal hunger, and then you keep eating more people because, it's a vicious cycle. And I mean, I've heard the meat is just so succulent that when you cook it, anyway. It's something about that. The Skinwalker, maybe. I'm trying to think who else. The creature from the Black Lagoon. He could drown. He could drown him. The Megalodon. The Megalodon will take a.
Can you drown them? Can you drown a werewolf? Because I mean,
I think a Megalodon could chew him up.
Okay, all right.
I think a Megalodon will chew him up. I guess
I would say same thing. Like, are we talking about a werewolf that can't instantly heal, or are we talking about one that can be hurt by everything if you do enough damage?
See, and this is where we're starting to get away.
Hold on,
and get your calculator. Yeah, get your calculator up. Because none of the actual research either one of us have brought to the table ever identified any clear this kind of vampire or this kind of werewolf versus So what is a stereotype?
That's a conversation.
So then I think before we ask the question, we need to set our own definition of what we believe is the stereotypical.
Build your parameters,
build the parameters. All right, I think for a werewolf that the
tail of the tape will get sued. I don't care.
Basically, I think that it's shitty. It's like once a month you turn into a beast. And you get puffy and your stomach hurts and not once a month. 28 days. So I was saying about the jokes. Come on, everybody. I don't think that they heal instantly. I think that if you slashed one, I don't think they would heal instantly. I think maybe they'd be hurt the next day. I don't know about healing instantly.
The only reason why
I imagine them as vicious to the point where they don't recognize PCP.
Yeah.
You don't recognize you just got beat with a club.
Okay, the only reason why I bring that up too about the healing thing is because you see them busting through the skin and the skin tearing and you know what I mean? And then you're transforming into this thing. It's like when you transform back, wouldn't there be a sack of skin, or would it be the healing quality that just sucks it back in?
Okay, my standard
because beats to the left.
My standard werewolf, that poor soul, when he goes back to human form, he's literally just one big stretch mark. Oh, poor guy, son of a bitch! He's got no healing factor. Oh my god, he's not Wolverine. He's just Weasel. Oh, ew. Poor guy. No, I mean I don't know. I think it's like the curse of having the pain, but I guess you do heal quickly, but I think that you feel it. I think that it's more of a curse than anything. It's a torture. You're probably your own self beating at the walls, watching this creature that you're stuck inside of your family. And it's then you wake up the next day and the werewolf got hurt, but then you heal by the next day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could probably kick a werewolf's ass and it would
I
have
think
to
of
go
it kind of,
rest
yeah.
before,
I
but
think of it
then
kind of like Wolverine. You know what I mean? Like Wolverine feels the pain. It's not like he's like, oh, that didn't hurt. You know, in the comic book, we're talking about that Wolverine. I'm talking about. It's like he does feel the pain, but he does heal instantaneously. You know what I mean?
he
Unless
does.
it's really, really bad, then it takes him some time to heal. In the comic books, we'll talk about that some other time. I'm sure.
Like when Magneto ripped out all the adamantium off of his bones, and it took him like
Like when the whole Hulk ripped his arms and legs off.
But they grew back. They grew back. It took a lot longer than you'd think. Anyway,
Exactly.
it's just one of those things. Yeah, I think that there's not enough like clear, not even like regional, not like, hey, in the Baltics they say their werewolves are like this, which is different than
Yeah, they're all
Germanics,
different
right?
all over. Yeah, exactly.
There's not enough overlap in any of these Venn diagrams for me to think about. Like, I mean, honestly, as far as like the classic vampires, werewolves, mummies, and Frankenstein, I think that that's just, it depends. If the mummy gets wet, he's fucked. You know what I mean? If it's that's
It's a
it.
simple kill. It's just like the
Yeah,
Wizard of Oz,
you
witches.
know. I mean, Frankenstein's monster. Ultimately, the fact that he's on the list means that we're a monster because he was an innocent creature. Read the book. We were the monster. We were the monster. So, but yeah, no, he's ugly, so he's on the list. I don't know. I think they would all just like be stuck in one of those eternal battles where like they just sit down and like they stalemate each other and they just stare in like a tomb forever. It would probably be just like what is it, Monster Squad from the 80s, where like you open up the tomb and they're all hanging out in there. You guys are all hanging out in this one room for how long? That's what I think it would be. I don't know. As much as I like werewolves, more research made me realize there's not enough definitive to keep giving too much of a big shit about them.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the movies are great, but as far as like informationally or any other thing like where you can do research on it, it's kind of all just it dead ends eventually, but it's all just kind of like the same stuff, just changed slightly different Walmart versions.
Walmart versions, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh no, and they have glowing eyes this year, and next year they'll have razor sharp claws made out of adamantium or whatever.
Why not? Yeah.
Unobtainium.
Unobtainium.
Love that, by the way.
Unobtainium is a good one. I would like to have some.
That's one of those.
Don't know how to get it.
Thing. Shit, what are we gonna call it? What are we gonna call it? Unobtainium. From the back. Unobtainium.
Unobtainium.
Can't get any s.
Yeah. Not hasn't any's.
Hardeminicus.
Hardeminicus. There you go. That's it right there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for those who have sat with us and listened to us, tear apart the whole concept of a werewolf, we have just disproved that they have ever walked the face of the earth. And now that we have definitively said that, all of you werewolves out there are safe to walk the night tonight. Everyone thinks you're gone.
It's a nice now full moon. We'll be fine. So
have a good night. Have a good night, and just
sleep
eat my neighbor. Eat my neighbor. You know which one? Not him. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you, everyone, and we'll be back doing other things other times, usually Tuesdays. Always.